And now we're ready to kick it off, ladies and gentlemen. Let's rock and roll.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the rights of a human being, to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You certainly come to the right place.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do promise you, when I get a team of producers and a team of writers, this show is going to be off the chain, because by myself, I am one resourceful chap. I get it done. Except for the fact that I always forget that even sometimes when your computer says it has one update, that one update can last for an entire hour. So even though I restarted my live streaming for YouTube Hangout video, I started that computer over at like 6:30 this morning. It is still, I'm looking at a blue screen. The reason I'm going to have to keep looking over my shoulder over here to see when my guests come on. But in front of me, what I normally look at during the show is a blue screen saying, keep your PC on until this is done, installing update 1 of 1. One update for the last 2 hours, for the last hour and a half. So besides that common mistake that I make all the time, it's just a bad habit. I was able to get this thing up and running, rewire some of my equipment, plug my, just get my live stream going on another computer that I use for Spreaker, and then have Spreaker running over my cell phone. So we have the show that if I didn't tell you otherwise, you probably would not have known, with the exception of the delay at the beginning. But I digress. I said all of that to say that once this show gets a team of more than 1.5, maybe 2, depending on what month it is, we're going to be bringing some really exciting things to you guys. And I do all of that and manage to bring you great political commentary and analysis. This morning, I will be joined by April Rain. She's going to join us to discuss this hashtag that was on YouTube, on Twitter yesterday, which is masculinity so fragile. And I wanted to discuss it because, one thing that I do is I stay out of particular hashtags just because sometimes there's no right answer. And so if there's no right answer, it's almost best to just stay out of it. So instead of getting into it, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to talk about it on my show. And then if somebody has a problem with what I said on my show, well, then they're coming over to my territory. But anyway, there's a lot of interesting things that happened with that. Also, there's a nice article that discusses the black vote for 2016, particularly the black women vote. So when she gets on, I want to discuss that with her. Also, I want to discuss the government shutdown over Planned Parenthood. And I want to play a clip, which will require me doing a lot of turning today, but I want to play a clip of Carly Fiorina with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, where she essentially says she does not care about the facts. She believes that Planned Parenthood is massacring babies to harvest brain organs. And, despite the evidence to the contrary, Carly Fiorina, and because of this is why she moved up in the polls, mind you. She didn't just move up in the polls because she's a dynamic speaker. She moved up in the polls because she's great at demagoguery. She's great at taking something that's not true and saying it with the passion and the zeal of a televangelist. So I want to talk about her. And of course, the Pope is in town, which is driving all of the conservatives completely batty, particularly their favorite and culture. So I want to discuss them and the political religion that is conservative Christianity. And last but not least, my favorite, I'm going to do an entire segment on these black conservatives, Ben Carson and CJ Pearson. They are who they are, but I just want to take them to task a little bit more because it is pure hilarity. I read an article in the New York Times by Charles Blow that discusses the amount of money that Ben Carson is making since he has become an anti-Obama black conservative. So I guess it goes to show you that everyone has a price and everyone And I guess conservatives can pay that price. And then, of course, C.J. Pearson is the young kid who hates Obama and is a teenager for Cruz. Of all people, he is a supporter of Cruz. All right. So with that being said, I don't see my guest in the room yet. And you guys on YouTube land, you're going to have to forgive me because, as you can tell, I am the computer that's running my stream is over here, which means I'm going to have to turn over here from time to time. But that's OK. I digress. So instead of hitting up Masculinity So Fragile and what Black women want in this election, instead of doing that first, because I'm waiting on April, who thanks so much. She's coming on the air. I haven't had her on the show in a while. We absolutely love April around here. And she got home at like 4 a.m. She got home at 4 a.m. and she turned around and got up to do this with me at 8 o'clock. So whenever she comes in, we'll give her the floor and we'll discuss that. Let me go first with the government shutdown over Planned Parenthood and this fervent religious belief in something that does not exist. Now, I'm not talking about God, right? I'm talking about these videos from Planned Parenthood where they're saying that children are being harvested, fully formed fetuses are being harvested for their brain tissue, and they're saying with such passion and such zeal that conservative Christians are crying and they're having all of these emotional breakdowns over something that is not true, that Fox News has even conceded is not true. But the fact that it's not true has not stopped them from demagoguing, has not stopped Carly Fiorina from moving up in the polls because of that demagoguery, and that has not stopped the Senate and the Congress from trying to shut down the government over defunding Planned Parenthood, despite all of the positive things that Planned Parenthood does, despite all of the STD screenings that they provide, but besides the breast cancer screening that they provide, the planning, the family planning services that they provide, particularly for poor people and middle class people who can't afford this type of screening or don't have access to it in their neighborhood. Despite all of these positive things that Planned Parenthood provides, they have latched onto, like leeches, onto a narrative of these videotapes that are absolutely have been proven to be untrue and so highly edited that we can't take them for what they ostensibly say. Despite the evidence, can I say this one more time? There is clear evidence that these videos were so tampered that every fact checker organization who are bipartisan, are the best bipartisan report that you can get, right? Because the fact checkers will expose a lie by President Obama just as quick as they would Ted Cruz. So the fact checker organizations have demonstrated that these videos were fake, but that doesn't matter to the Senate, that doesn't matter to the Congress, that does not matter to Carly Fiorina, and they are ready to shut down the government over it. So I want to play for you a quick clip of Chris Wallace interviewing Carly Fiorina on this exact issue. And once you see the level of demagoguery, let me move this mic. How about I do this? Once you see the level of demagoguery, it won't be surprising. The only thing it will confirm the fact that this conservative religion that we talk about all the time is a statement of faith, despite all of the evidence to the contrary. And that is a dangerous thing. And apparently I did not save the right video, but here we go. Let's rock and roll with this video of Carly Fiorina and Chris Wallace, and we'll just go with what we have. How about that?
I think it's fair to say your biggest moment of the debate was when you called for the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Here that is.
I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes, watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking, while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
First of all, do you acknowledge what every fact checker has found, that as horrific as that scene is, it was only described on the video by someone who claimed to have seen it? There is no actual footage of the incident that you just mentioned.
No, I don't accept that at all. I've seen the footage, and I find it amazing, actually, that all these supposed fact checkers in the mainstream media claim this doesn't exist. They're trying to attack the authenticity of the videotape. I haven't found a lot of people in the mainstream media who've ever watched these things. I mean, they will claim somebody watched it for them. I will continue to dare anyone who wants to continue to fund Planned Parenthood watch the videotapes.
All right, let me stop it there because that's quite enough. So she's clearly said, and I don't even know if she has a footing, like what standing or ground does she have? Is she asserting that the fact checker organizations who have said that this is not what is actually in the video, this is just merely a description that someone gave in the video, is she saying that they didn't watch the video, even though their job was to watch the video and to provide a false or true analysis summary of what was said? I guess that's the only thing that confuses me is, who is she talking to? Did she just quickly deflect from the fact checker organizations and go directly to politicians so that she wouldn't have to account for what the fact checker organizations said, and so she could speak on politicians versus people who are giving you fact checking? That's the type of demagoguery. And I want to point out the level of passion with which she conveyed it, right? It's almost as though it was such an emotional appeal to the soul of America about something that is tragically happening across the country. And if people would not dare look at this video and dare not to cancel and do and all this over something that's a lie, that is, not only is it disingenuous, which is putting it mildly, that is dangerous. When you can knowingly demagogue a lie, something that you know not to be true, not only for the purposes of getting votes, but now for the purposes of shutting down the government. These absolutists are not even dealing with the facts, and they're accepting this. And so Carly Fiorina knows she's lying. Ted Cruz knows that he's lying. Republicans in power know that they are lying. But what happens is they get their followers to accept it as tenets of faith, which is why I started calling this a long time ago in my book. But yesterday, particularly on the show, I started calling this the conservative religion. It is a conservative religion whose entire purpose is to convince people of things that have been proven not to be factually true. This and these people accept it just on faith. And I guess it's easy, right? Here's the thing. I guess it is entirely easy to get people who are used to accepting things on faith because of their religion and God to accept things on faith, even when it's absolutely not true and proven to not be true. But now you have all of these pro-lifers running around the country who are repeating this lie and repeating this narrative, preaching sermons about it, getting speaking engagements, getting paid a lot of money to go and speak on this issue that's a non-issue, that is a completely fabricated lie. And now we're faced with the government shutdown. Mitch McConnell says that the government won't shut down, but if Ted Cruz has his way, the government will shut down yet again over an issue that is a complete and total lie. And no part of what I just said would ever penetrate the idiocy, the shroud of stupidity that has protected conservatives from ever looking in the mirror and realizing, you know what, I am a complete buffoon. Because the worst thing in the world that could ever happen is for you to realize that everything that you believed, everything that you fought so fervently for, everything that you shouted about and called people names about and demagogued over, everything about you is a sham and a lie. Carly Fiorina is a sham and a lie, a liar. Her career is a sham. And this entire position that has moved her up in the polls is a complete farce and a complete lie. So I dare her and I challenge her to prove what she is saying is not a lie, which we can actually do because we have physical, tangible evidence. This is not a proving a negative of like proving that God doesn't exist, right? You can't prove that, but we can prove, and they have proven, that Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz, and all the rest of the extreme evangelical, pro-life, by any means, people, maniacs, have lied about this. And there's still some question There's still people debating over this. My good friend, love him to death, Frederick Wilson, Let's Talk Politics, came on the show last week and was demagoguing the same talking point, even though we showed him that it was a lie. Even though we show these people that trickle down supply side economics does not work and it hurts you and it works for the top 1%, they still preach it as if it is the gospel truth. And this is the world that we live in, where people are such ideologues, such radical ideologues, that they don't care about the truth. They only care about the bias confirming lies that makes them feel good about themselves and makes them never have to confront the reality that everything that they've known, everything that they've preached, everything that they cried over, everything that they marched over is a complete lie. I guess if that was my life and I woke up one morning, I guess I would just keep believing the lie. Ignorance is bliss, right? Who wants to really confront the reality that what you have believed over the last 35 years? And here's the thing, it gets actually worse, because not only is it a lie, but it has fomented and created this religion that is contradictory to their own faith. I mean, they have monetized Jesus. They have monetized Jesus to the point where anyone who opposes any of the Republican Reagan paradigm is considered a complete socialist fascist, even though that paradigm is detrimental to their own economic good. All right, I'm going to stop there. We're going to take a quick break because my guest has jumped into the room and I want to set up the stage for her. Welcome, April. When we come back, we're going to talk briefly about Masculinity So Fragile and the article that I just sent her this morning. I hope she had a chance to look at it, about Black women and the Black vote in 2016. And when we come back, we will open the phone lines, 857-600-0518. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and there's my music. We'll be back after this.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
Warm fleece on a cold day. I want to be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back. Welcome back, folks. Okay. So we're going to do a hard shift here. And I'm not as graceful as I like to be today because I'm if you could have seen me during that commercial break, April, or did you see me? I was switching monitors around so that I didn't have to turn so hard. I've got this rigged up this morning because of a common mistake that I keep making, and I'm going to not make it anymore after today. But all that being said, you are here, April. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Did you get any rest last night?
A few hours, but it was absolutely worth it. I was in New York yesterday to see a brand new production called Barbecue, written by Robert O'Hara and playing at the Public Theater on Lafayette Avenue, and it was a great performance. It was the New York stage debut of Kim Wayans, who many people know is part of the very famous Wayans family. So if you have an opportunity to go see it, I would highly recommend it.
Awesome. Definitely. Try to take my wife down there if I can find a babysitter, but I digress. So listen, I brought you on because I wanted to talk about masculinity so fragile. And I saw this happening and unfolding yesterday. And one thing I've learned about Twitter is sometimes it's best to just lay low and don't say anything, even if you disagree with what's being said. I think Elon James White says, it is always an option just to be quiet. So, and so my initial reaction was, you know what, let's just be quiet, because when I read some of those hashtag responses, talking about how fragile men can be over certain situations, I absolutely could not identify with anything the women who were tweeting it, and some men for that matter, I couldn't understand. I did not identify with it. I had no point of reference, because I'm like, where do they find these type of people at? Where do they find these types of men at? But I was quiet long enough to start reading some of the responses of the men on Twitter, and I was like, oh,
there they are. Yeah.
So tell me about the hashtag. How did it get started, and what are some of the interesting things you found about it?
I honestly don't know who started the Masculinity So Fragile hashtag. When I jumped on, it was already in full swing. So I'd love to be able to give credit to the originator, but unfortunately I cannot. What I found so interesting, and I think, Ben, you said it, if you don't have an issue with a particular hashtag, then it's really not speaking to you, and so maybe you're on the other side. You are the person who doesn't have the problems that are being discussed. Same thing for, the You OK Sis hashtag, which was started by Feminista Jones, that talks about street harassment. There are a lot of people that said, I have no frame of reference for this. And that's because you probably have never engaged in it, and hopefully have never seen it either. But you probably have a woman in your life, a sister, a daughter, a mother, a friend who has. So back to Masculinity So Fragile, I think that the overall point was that there are some men who feel intimidated, by various everyday occurrences that happen. So for example, someone's masculinity may be so fragile that when he is rebuffed in his advances on a woman, on a stranger on the street, that he turns right around and calls her despicable names, or follows her, or just doesn't take that that pass well. And so what we saw yesterday was, for one really incredible example, Pia Glenn, who is a wonderful actress and performer, and just an all-around fantastic woman. And you can find her on Twitter and on I know you can find her on Twitter at Pia Glenn, PIAGLENN. There was a gentleman, and I use that term very loosely, who was on Twitter and took offense to the Masculinity So Fragile hashtag. And what he said was, anybody, any woman, I challenge any woman who is tweeting using the hashtag unironically to fight. And, let's see, to go 3 rounds with me, and let's see how fragile you are. And in fact, he was proving the hashtag just by that first tweet, right? That he couldn't even handle the discussion about masculinity by strangers, that he had to challenge not anybody, but women specifically to a fight. So he did that, and Pia jumped in and said, I accept. And she was 100% serious. And, you know, I know a little bit about Pia's exercise regimen, and she would have taken him out. And I have no idea what this guy looks like, you know, because he had an anime ave, which, you know, clue number one. But she took him on, and he moonwalked so quickly away from her and away from the challenge. You know, first it was, oh, well, you didn't tweet me with the hashtag, which was not part of his original challenge. And then it was, you weren't using the hashtag before I issued the challenge. I mean, there were 1,000, you know, it was like 50 ways to leave your lover or to get out of something, you know, that you really, you know, he wrote a check that his behind couldn't cash. You know, and so it really was in real time a discussion, an example of how men's masculinity can be so fragile. You know, and you don't necessarily need to take offense at, and if you are, you know, the phrase is hit dogs holler, right? And so if you are incredibly upset about what people are saying, you really need to turn that inward, I think, and figure out why it is that you're having these thoughts, these feelings, you know, and these emotions about a particular hashtag, which is, you know, just a set of letters put together with a number sign in the front of them.
Right. So here's and I, you know, it was hard. Here's the reality of it is, and I think men are guilty of this. When human beings are are guilty of this. When there's a conversation going on that could impact you or could reflect on you, like if people are speaking categorically of anything, then it can become offensive to you if you don't take a moment to realize, well, they're not talking about me, right? Because I don't fit into what they're saying. And then you just have to keep walking, right? Keep walking past the hashtag because it doesn't have anything to do with you, because they are speaking about their own personal experiences. And I think what men and women and people and human beings in general do is that we find it very difficult to walk past a conversation that has nothing to do with us because we're not guilty of it, simply because we think people are speaking categorically. No one yesterday, well, I can't say no one because I didn't read every hashtag, but people were speaking about their personal experiences. And so how can you get offended about someone's personal experiences when you're not a part of that personal experience? And I saw so many men losing it yesterday, and actually not even men. I want to pull up a tweet by Michelle Malkin.
Well, all right. I mean, you know, she's definitely a woman. I don't want to be misunderstood there, but you know, there's some professional trolls, and I believe that she is one of them, who wants to jump in, you know, on every single thing just to make things contrary, and it's unfortunate that's her shtick.
And here, you know, and here, I love what you think you did this yesterday with the Homer Simpson. That
was Vision Poet. I want to give credit. There he is. I want to give credit to him.
Yeah. And this is exactly how that guy was when he said, I didn't understand. This is the thing, April, is like you challenge someone. At first, when I first read it, I'm like, are you challenging her to a rhetorical fight, you know, who can tweet the best? And I was like, okay. But then I read it, and this dude was actually talking about a physical fight.
Yes, pugilism. I mean, fisticuffs, like getting in a ring or someplace. And in fact, there was another woman, you know, he sort of disqualified Pia based on his rules that he made up after the fact. But there was, in fact, another woman who stepped to him and said, you know what, I'm in. You know, I've already used the hashtag and so on and so forth. And he actually said to her, you know, you seem to fit my, you know, weird little profile. And then she said, turn your location on. She's like, you know, I'm in Lansing, Michigan. What's good? You know, let's take it. And he never responded to her. So, you know, and I think the one of the bigger messages that we can take from this that you touched on is that very often you need to just be quiet with your thoughts and read the hashtag. If you don't understand what's going on, if you don't get, you know, sometimes hashtags are intentionally sarcastic, you know, or obtuse, you know, because they're trying to get a point across. And it's really important that we all if we don't fully understand what the hashtag represents, to be quiet and read the hashtag and listen and learn. I mean, we say that a lot to non-people of color when they're trying to understand, what racism really is, what the Black Lives Matter movement is all about. And it's like, just read, Google is your friend. So go on out there and take good use of it.
And here's the thing about it is that not only read the hashtag, but I think for people like me who yesterday, my first reaction was, come on, my masculinity is not that fragile, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not even going to front. My natural reaction was like, give me a break. But I know the world enough to realize, let me go read the responses to these tweets. If you don't like what's being tweeted, and you think that it's wrong, go and look at the responses to the tweet, and they will prove everything about that hashtag to be true. I mean, there's no greater example than just that one guy that I put on the screen, challenging women to a fist fight because of his masculinity being so fragile. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the rabbit hole went deeper and deeper. People trying to use philosophy, trying to use rhetorical jujitsu, trying to use anything they could to undermine the hashtag of masculinity so fragile, inadvertently proving the entire point of masculinity so fragile. So if you're like me and you were touched, because it touches a nerve, let's just be real. I mean, if you claim yourself to be a man's man or whatever you claim yourself to be, then when you saw that hashtag, it instantly touched the nerve. But read the responses and you will see exactly why the hashtag was necessary. So I want to show one more hashtag. This one is from, and I can never pronounce her name correctly. Help me out, April. Jamila Noam. All right, this one is the one that really caused me to take pause because of how many retweets and how many examples I read. Retweet if a man has yelled at you or cursed you out after you declined his advances. This one to me was instantly foreign because I've never, I don't want to be a jackass and say I've never been turned down, but when I have been turned down, it was like, okay, move on to the, move on, go to the next. I've personally never yelled at a woman, cursed at a woman, or try to make a woman feel bad because she turned down my advances. So it's like, what are you talking about? But then when you read the replies, and then I talk to my wife, I'm like, dear God,
yeah,
really as bad. I mean, no, let me state that over. It is really as bad as people say it is.
Yes, I mean, literally. Without any exaggeration or hyperbole, women have been attacked. And in fact, there are examples of women who have been killed because they've turned down the advance of some man on the street. Some guy who thought a woman was attractive or whatever he thought, and she said nothing, or she just didn't say what he liked in response, and she did not give him the attention that he thought he deserved. And he attacked her. I mean, you can Google it. It's not me. It's not some feminist tirade. It's out there, and that's the problem. And so that's how this, that particular tweet, sort of tied into the street harassment ongoing discussion that we're having. That's led by Feminista Jones with her "You Okay Sis" hashtag. But it can be anything. Your masculinity is so fragile that you absolutely refuse to buy a rose-colored iPhone. Because, or you will not wear pink socks or something, because supposedly pink means fragility, pink means femininity, and so you won't do it. Or you won't wear a pink tie because you're afraid that somebody's going to think that you're soft or that you're gay or whatever, so it doesn't have to just be street harassment, but those are some of the, your masculinity is so fragile that you won't hold your woman's purse as she goes to try something on, you know what I mean? It's that type of thing. And it's really pervasive. And I think everybody could come up with an example, of well, not everyone, but, a lot of people who are sane and sentient and lucid, and don't have trouble and don't necessarily equate masculinity with strength, which is what that fella did yesterday with Pia, and don't necessarily equate their masculinity with muscles or what anyone else thinks of them.
Right.
Which I think is the important part. Like, if you are secure in your manhood, whatever that means to you, then you're not concerned about what other people think of you.
Right. And you know, and I just want to give the advice. So first of all, I'm looking in my closet from here and I see lavender, I see
pink ties. Yes, I bet.
Everything. And you know, once you get married, you're going to carry your wife's purse simply because you want to be a decent human being when she's picking up the kids, right? You know, it's really, and this is why it's so foreign to me. And my gut reaction was a visceral, like, give me a break. And here's some advice. Take a minute and go look at someone you trust and see what their words are, what they're thinking to help carry you through. Your masculinity has to be strong enough to handle a hashtag like masculinity so fragile. And I think yesterday it was a perfect example of why that hashtag was necessary. But then the other flip side of it is, this is my world. This is the world I come from. I'm sitting here wondering, why are all these guys actively fighting these women, rhetorically speaking, and even some physically, right, in the real world? Well, Twitter is real. Why are they taking all of this energy to attack women? And I'm sitting back, me and my friends, me and my boys, we're like, we never had the energy to attack women when they turned us down, because we always moved on and found somebody who liked us for who we are. And we made love, not war, to use a very old cliche. I don't understand why people have this much energy to put into people that you really want to be with, instead of antagonizing them. Either move on or, you know, up your game or whatever it is that you need to do. I don't understand why people have energy to antagonize, and there's so many better things that we could be doing with that energy. That's really my perspective. I don't understand it. Help me. What is that disconnect with human beings? Why would they spend that much energy when realistically we really want to be doing what we love to do?
Right. I don't know that I can answer it, because I've never been in the situation. You know, I'm with you. I mean, I think that, you know, women can approach men. I mean, I've been married for, 2,000 years. So a lot of it doesn't really apply. But back when I was dating, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, you know, and if I ever approached someone and he wasn't interested, you know, I moved on, because there are 4 billion people in the world, you know, so maybe that, maybe he was hot. But he was not the only hot guy, even in my city, much less in the world. And so I moved on, but I think a lot of it has to do with self-esteem. I think a lot of it has to do with the need for validation, and I think the need for attention, and the need to be seen and heard, like literally, and so I think it's unfortunate that these people, some people, men and women, focus so much. It's like they're laser focused, and I need to have an interaction with this particular person. Right. And then it's the rejection that they feel has happened. And it just may be that maybe the woman is already seeing someone, you don't even know in that split second, maybe she is having an incredibly bad day and just doesn't want to be approached, or there really doesn't need to be a reason why a woman, you're a complete stranger. And what do we tell children? Don't talk to strangers. I mean, you know what I mean? It's really, it can really be that simple. And so if you're approaching me on the street, I don't know if you're trying to get me to fill out a survey. I don't know if you have a weapon, and these things happen. It's not far-fetched. And so I'm not interested in interacting with people I don't know, in an open space like that, where I don't know what your intentions are. If I was meeting you at a cocktail party or something like that, and it was a controlled environment, then yeah, we could have a talk, we can have words. But I'm also not necessarily interested in making a connection on the street that may lead to marriage, which I guess it was the plan, or not, maybe not marriage, maybe just, a relationship with the air quotes or something like that. And that's not something that I would be interested in, even if I was single, right. And I don't think that the men are looking at it from women's perspectives.
And two quick anecdotes, and I really didn't, but this is an important issue. So I think it's worthwhile because it touches on so many different issues that are very significant. One quick anecdote is I can remember when my sisters came down to Daytona Beach for Black College Reunion. And I told them to stay home. Don't bring your asses to Daytona Beach, because I knew what Black College Reunion was about. And they showed up anyway. And so I had to walk around Black College Reunion with my sisters. And when they turned down a guy's advances, it was a group of guys. They started grabbing on my sisters, like their arms. So me, this is my sister. I'm 5'6", and at the time, every bit of 150 pounds, right? I got in the way, moved the guys out the way, and let my sisters pass. And when I tell you this is one of my most religious moments in my life, I was surrounded by at least 25 guys ready to beat my ass because I interfered with their advances, to their unwanted advances towards my sisters. And somehow or another, I don't know, it was a miracle, I was able to pass right through them without dying. But I think about that scenario and think about what if I had not been there and they had done their own thing, and these 25 guys were there who could have easily assaulted them. So something like that, I think not everyone has experiences like that, but if you dig down deep enough and if you listen, you can hear plenty of examples where stories didn't end up so good like mine did.
Right. And your sisters were fortunate that they had you there, you know, to have their back. I don't want to say necessarily protect, because I'm sure they could have handled themselves, but maybe couldn't. You know, and that's the concern that so many women have.
To be sure, I couldn't handle myself. I was going to get my ass beat. You know, let's just be clear. I was just there to have their back and do what I felt like needed to be done. But I can't imagine how many women are in a vulnerable situation where no matter what they would have done, they could have become easily victims or did become victims. So it's just, I mean, it's a real situation when you dig underneath the superficial responses to masculinity so fragile. It can become a very serious and very disturbing issue. And if you read and listen, I think people can actually start to experience it through the eyes of someone else.
Right. And again, you know, it's not, street harassment is a sort of an intersectional topic here. But, you know, when we're talking about masculinity so fragile, you know, it can be just about anything. You know, you refuse to you know, mop the floor because, you know, that's something that your mother did. And so that's woman's work, whatever that means, you know, or you can't go to the grocery store and buy feminine products for your significant other because whatever, because some man will, you know, some other man will see you buying maxi pads. And so that means, I don't know what it means other than you're in a relationship, you know, and your woman doesn't want to get out of bed, but you know, that's the, you know, so it can be something as simple as that, or it can be something as serious as street harassment. So I just want to say that masculinity so fragile really does run the gamut, you know, and so we've got a lot of Venn diagram things happening about the topic as a whole.
April, thank you so much. I really need to expand my showtime. So especially when you come on, because it's always enlightening and it's always no, it's a great conversation. I'm glad we took a moment to do it. I'll table that other article that I sent you for another time. That's kind of an evergreen article. We can address that at any time. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Tell everyone how they can get up with you.
I am April Rain, and I can be found at Reign of April, REIGN of April, like the month, everywhere. So Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and even my website is reignofApril.com. Thank you, Ben, for having me. It is always a pleasure, regardless of the hour and my lack of sleep. So I look forward to interacting with you again soon.
Absolutely. We'll have you back as soon as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, April Rain. When we come back, I'm going to talk about these Black conservatives, Ben Carson and CJ Pearson. We'll be back after.
You're tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation. 857-600.
I love Black conservatives.
You want to stay for that conversation?
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust. You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right, folks. Welcome back. We just negotiated during the break to have April stay with us a little bit longer. So let me unmute her mic. She loves Black conservative.
Oh, I said it. You have to put the quote marks or something around. There needs to be a sarcasm emoji or something.
Insert sarcasm there. She loves Black conservative. You have to go back. And I should cut that segment out of the night of my drunken stupor where you were debating with Frederick, because that was really a great conversation. So I think I'll cut that out and post that by itself, because Fred is a Black conservative through and through, and then of course April is April. Dynamic.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not. I don't really. I'm a registered Democrat. I do have some socially conservative, fiscally conservative. I have some fiscally conservative leanings. So yeah, and I'm really not a big fan of labels.
Hang on a second. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't have I had the camera stuck on me. Okay, so I'm going to talk about and do me a slight favor, April. Could you turn your volume down on that end where you're listening back? Because I hear a lot of feedback. I want to talk about Ben Carson, who yesterday said that Republicans are much better on race issues, have been much better at getting past race than Democrats. And then I posted an article there. There's a link in the description for anyone who wants to read it below. So then he starts to unpack that, talking about conservatives not basing matters on the skin color, not basing issues, their decisions based on basing it on the context of their character and not the color of their skin, all of this. And it just stands out to me as, I don't know, is it delusional? Is it stupidity? I'm gonna make this a conversation before I start ranting about it. April, what do you think it is that you actually believe?
I don't know what Ben Carson believes. And sorry, I definitely don't want to confuse the two of you. And I'm not sure that he knows. I think what he believes is that he has to say whatever he wants, whatever he can to generate interest in his campaign. And so that's why we've seen some really outlandish statements about the Muslim community recently, and and now he's pivoting this way, and talking about people of color, and it's just all wrong. I talked a little bit on Twitter a couple of days ago, about how this is really playing out. Ben Carson's numbers were really, really poor. He knew that in the first two debates he was largely ignored, and so he had to do something to generate interest. So Trump had already gone against, immigrants, undocumented immigrants coming into this country. And so someone in his camp said, let's go after Muslims. And so I think that's what Ben Carson did. And because, we had the story of Ahmad Muhammad, the young student who made, a clock that was never mistaken for a bomb, because, I don't know if you've already talked about this, and I don't want to get into it, but it didn't make they never cleared out the school. They never called the bomb squad. So clearly there was no safety issue. But Ben Carson sort of jumped on this bandwagon, about the Muslim community, and then also about there being Muslims not necessarily being fit to be the president. And in fact, we have Article 6 of the Constitution, which specifically says that there is no religion test for the president. And he knew that. You can't be run for president and not know what the Constitution says. But what we've seen is that his financial backing has jumped significantly since he went full Trump. And started making these outrageous claims that rile up the insensitive, the bigoted, the discriminatory, the racist, far right wing. And so now he's rolling with it. And this is just his latest example of doing it. He has absolutely no shot to be president. He's damaging whatever legacy he had as a pediatric neurosurgeon, because people are really questioning his intelligence at this point.
This is the thing. This is what trips me out, April. I don't understand, and I'm trying to share the screen. This is the article by Charles Blow. The link is in the description. I don't understand why. No, I understand why, but I don't understand why of the why. He's making a lot of money doing what he's doing now and prior to running for office. So running for office is like an investment where his book sales are going to go up and his speaking tours are going to be, he could charge even more. But prior to even running for office, after he turned coat on President Obama, who he had previously been a huge fan of, he started getting speaking engagements at $12,000 to $48,000 a head. A pop. Every time he would speak, he would get between $12,000 and $48,000. And last year alone, he made almost $2 million just speaking on conservative issues. It is and this is what I wanted to talk about most of all. It is very profitable to be a Black conservative who is willing to ignore any of your racist, what's it called? Spidey senses, just ignore that and play the game. They will put money, huge sums of money in your pocket because you are able to say things that they cannot get away with. And so Ben Carson is doing it. Charles Blow outlines that a lot of this is because of the money incentive. But my question is, he was a brilliant neurosurgeon. Maybe just our expectations are wrong for the medicine field, but did he not make a lot of money being a neurosurgeon? And why is it that he's doing all of these things? And clearly he must, I hope, for the sake of his soul, that he believes something that he is saying. But for him to turn coat so hard and then begin to say things that are so blatantly wrong, it could only be for the attention, the notoriety, and then the money that comes because of those. What do you think about all of that? Oh, and April, hang on one second. This is my bad. I went start over. Go for it.
I think that a lot of it is the money and the attention, because a lot of people didn't know who he was or just knew about, his neurosurgery, but didn't know the man, so it is incredibly profitable for Black conservatives to spew this nonsense, especially because we have a Black president in the White House. And I think that was another one of the reasons why Ben Carson went after Muslims, because, we saw at the Trump rally, that racist who called, President Obama a Muslim and said he wasn't even American. And so, Obama is a Muslim was trending on Twitter. So it was a good way for Carson to pivot in that direction. He's got a relatively new book out. And to make an attenuated analogy, we see this happen in the music industry all the time. There is an incredible, back and forth. There's a beef on the timeline, and then, oh, there's a surprise. Someone just dropped a mixtape. Someone just dropped an album. Someone is going on tour. So, you rustle up interest in yourself, and then you play on that interest. I think Ben Carson, maybe he was bored. Who knows? And very often there are Republican operatives who go out and say, who could we get? So Ben Carson really isn't new to the scene, but he's getting a lot more play now. And so the Republican operatives said, yes, let's go get him. Because again, I don't think anybody believes that Ben Carson has any shot at the White House. But in the same way that Trump is being riled up, and he's saying all of these outlandish things, even when they flame out, which I hope that they do at some point, the rabid base is still there. And those are the people that are going to be voting come November 2016.
Let me share one poll with you, because surprisingly, and this poll just came out, what is today, the 24th. This poll came out this morning then from Quinnipiac. Give me 2 seconds to pull this up. The Quinnipiac poll actually shows that Ben Carson is performing best in a general election matchup, which is unbelievable. As I filibuster real quickly, because I want to get this on the screen. And actually, you know what? I don't think it's actually an article, and it doesn't show clearly the poll, but the poll shows that Ben Carson and Joe Biden, according to Quinnipiac, say that 4 times fast, Ben Carson and Joe Biden actually fare the best in a general election matchup. So he's actually gaining traction, even though in a sensible, sane world, a person who does not understand the Constitution, a person who does not understand anything about foreign policy, a person who barely understands anything about the economic structure of the United States could actually be performing this well. But like you said, his strategists recognized the traction that Donald Trump was getting, and they said, you know what, you need to go full bigot too, because there is a very strong support base for the full-blown bigotry of the Republican Party.
I think that's exactly right. I think that optics also have a lot to do with this. So, there are people that say, I can't be racist because Ben Carson is my guy and he's black, and so that I think that's helping him, because people think, I will vote for him, and then I don't look bad to anyone because of my actual racist or discriminatory views. So I think that's, and people, still people think that he's very intelligent because of his pedigree in medicine.
But he has proven that intelligence in one area does not translate necessarily to another area. He is, and I said this on the show the other day, and I'm kind of an asshole. You guys got to forgive me. But when he's confused, you can see it, because he has this look of constipation and anxiety, and he twists back, and he just looks like something is breaking down in his brain because he does not know an answer. And so I think that he may be he is a brilliant neurosurgeon, but he is completely incompetent in the realm of politics. Let me make a quick shift over to this other guy, this kid who is CJ Pearson. I have him on the screen. He is the Republican darling. They love this little boy because he is condescending. He is disrespectful. He says everything that they would love to say, but they can't because they'd be called a racist. And he says it about President Obama. And this is nothing new, but he upped his ante yesterday. And he claims, I don't know if you've seen this, April, but he claims that President Obama blocked him on Twitter. Hang on, let me see if I can get this to work right for me. Boom. Did that work? Nope. Let's try it one more time. So anyway, I have this tweet. I'm just kind of doing things kind of jerry-rigged today. But he claims that President Obama blocked him on Twitter, and he's put up an image of President Obama's Twitter profile. You know what everyone does when they're blocked. Here's the thing about it. The White House spokesperson came out and said that the president has a policy of not blocking anyone. So out of millions of people who troll the president incessantly, nonstop, all day, every single day, CJ Pearson wants us to believe that he is the only one that the president actually was concerned about enough to go ahead and block. What do you think about that and this kid in general?
I'm not buying that at all, and because I have seen President Obama and the White House and Michelle Obama's mentions, and they literally receive death threats. So I don't know why anyone, President Obama or whomever is running his account when he's not tweeting himself, would take the time to block one young person, especially, a young Black kid, because the optics would be bad. So I'm going to guess that that's Photoshop. And once again, it's young Mr. Pearson, drumming up interest in himself and his little cause, and I want to be very careful here. I have children around his age, and my policy is you don't come for children at all, so I would not, so I wouldn't stand for, discussions of Malia Obama or Sasha Obama. And, I think we can talk about his overall policies. I don't want to talk about him personally, but I also think that he's 13, and there are things that I said at 23 that I would not, that I would be, embarrassed by at my age now. And so I think, I don't know who's riling him up behind the scenes, who, is feeding him the misinformation, but I think we check back with him, in 10 years, in 20 years, and we see, where his head is.
What do you mean? You're not 23, April? I could have, come on now. You're messing with us. You're definitely not over 25. But you know what? I really have no mercy on people who put them out for political consumption, themselves for political consumption, because nobody is having mercy on me. I know he's 13 and kids are generally off limits, but once you put yourself out there on this level and you are a manipulator, he is like, I've seen a lot of his work, and he's a very insidious type of person. And it's not because that's the person he's going to be. It's because it's convenient at 13 to be able to say these kinds of things with this type of fervor and get a pass on it, because nobody's really going to take you to task over it because you're 13. So the Republicans and conservatives are putting him out there for this mass consumption because they know everyone is going to be like, for two reasons: he's young and he's Black, so hands off, nobody's going to say anything about him. But I will say this much about him: when he grows up and finally accepts who he really is on many different levels, he's going to be he's going to hate the fact that he was the person that he was, and he's going to have to deal with that type of baggage when he's an adult, which is why I am absolutely opposed to his aid. I hate when adults exploit children for that exact reason, because kids generally grow out of whatever they were when they were 12, 13, and 14. And then they have to look back and live the rest of their life with the reality of, I was out for mass consumption, saying a bunch of things that makes me really sick right now. So in a way, I feel bad for him, but at the same time, I just, I take the gloves off, because he is a very astute and manipulative young man. Either that or his parents are, they have to be some malicious people to feed him this and allow him to say these things that he doesn't believe. If he believes it, then I think it's fair game. I think people need to call him out regardless, and I know you won't. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I will, because I'm the resident asshole in the friendship that we have. I'm sure it's profitable. If you want to make an analogy, he is the young Ben Carson. As you said, he is a Black conservative who can say things that white people cannot say and will get the pass. And so, again, look, if you take a broad brush here, we've got Ben Carson standing on the podium, and then we have CJ Pearson saying this, and I'm sure, as CJ Pearson gets speaking engagements or whatever, his parents are, shoring up his college fund, and making sure that he, that he's getting his payday, and you mentioned how, he will deal with this when he's 10 years older. And I'll be interested, assuming that his name is still relevant in 10 years, I'll be really interested in exactly how he deals with this, because he could have, a come to Jesus moment and, realize how wrong he is on so many things.
or he can become, you know, an Armstrong Williams or a Ben Carson. You know, I mean, Ben Carson was, raised by a single mom. He, he was on the receiving end of affirmative action. He even, I think, got glasses at one point, from a social services system. So so he was the benefit of all of the things that he is railing against, and he knows what his past is, obviously. So we'll see which way CJ Pearson goes.
April, thanks for hanging out with me for overtime. Thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure. Everyone, this is April Rain. I want you to follow her on Twitter, Instagram, go to her website, subscribe to her blog. Friend of the show. We always love having you, April. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cut it there. We've gone overtime. All my extra stuff, I'll be here tomorrow. So you hear from me all the time. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same channel.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.